Construction champions, it's your host, Ron Nussbaum, and we're here for another amazing episode of Construction Champions Podcast, where we're burning the damn house down. That house is your business, your personal life, your relationship with your significant other, your kids, you name it. It has nothing to do with your customer and a job that went sideways. What it has to do is with you and that image in the mirror, and how do we bridge the gap to create the champion that we know you're meant to be. You can find us here every Monday and every Thursday. And we know you don't show up for Ron Nussbaum. You show up for our amazing guests that we bring on. And today is no different. Tim, it is great to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Ron, for having me.
Awesome, man. I'm excited for our conversation. But before we dive in there, why don't you tell all the champions out there a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I've been at this for about 8 years now. It'll be 9 years next year. And we help construction clients um, increase their revenue year to year by 15%. And we do that by helping them just organize the back office, really do the things that they don't enjoy doing, which is getting that paperwork and finances, together, and then also having that information to communicate with the field. So that is pretty much the nuts and bolts of what we do. And I come from a family of contractors. My dad is a GC. And so I speak the language, I know the lingo, I understand what it is that these contractors are going through. So it's near and dear to my heart to help this industry, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Awesome, man. I love it. So I always love when people come from the construction industry and were raised around it,
Yeah.
because it brings just a completely different a completely different way of thinking about things, especially when you don't then have a construction business. You decide to have a business that serves the construction industry because I'm sure as we get into this, this is something that you saw your dad deal with and was like, there has to be a better way. So I love that perspective on things. But I'm going to ask the $1 million question, man. And that is, what makes a construction champion?
Ever found yourself revisiting a project because of a small miscommunication? It's frustrating and costly. That's why I switched to BuilderComs. Their construction communication management solution cuts through the noise, ensuring my team is always on the same page. Now, missteps are rare and rework is a thing of the past. Ready to streamline your projects? Check out BuilderComs today.
What makes a construction champion? One who can execute their schedule on time. I know that's like a hard thing to do, but if you could complete a project on time, you will save a lot of money and you'll get a lot of business. The second will be someone who knows how to put an estimate together and has some type of system on how they put that estimate together, so that way they can monitor it and see how well the project was estimated versus the actual numbers. So those are the two main things that I believe makes a construction champion. And I guess we're going to unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I 100% agree. I don't think people understand how much is actually wasted when you don't finish a project on time. Like
Yeah.
what the actual numbers look like. I don't think anybody actually comprehends. I'm sure you do because you're tracking them, but your typical contractor, when you run over on a project by a week, 30 days, what that actually does to your business is mind blowing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's scary. Because of all the different opportunities that you miss out on, because you can't start, you know, maybe some other great projects that are down the pipeline because you're trying to finish up, some current projects. And so it's also have you to, when that's happening, that's when you got to really dive in deep to the data in the field, because we don't know what's happening out there in the field that's preventing me to finish this project on time. Is it the staff that I have? Is it the vendors that I'm using? Is it the type of client that I'm serving, because they throw in a bunch of change orders, so it just has you to ask all these questions, and I'm really good at asking questions, because when I write down questions to ask of any problem that I have, it just has me to get down deep into, like, very granular of what's really happening and what I need to change to get different results. So as you can see, I have a passion for this thing, so I can go on forever, Ron. I don't want to take over.
No, it's yours. This show's yours to do with what you want, and continue to educate everybody out there. And I'm guessing that is why number two is having an estimating system and a way to track it, because that gets you that data that you're looking for, correct?
Yeah, it gets you that data, and it doesn't have to be perfect. That's what kills a lot of momentum. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to know, I got to get this estimate perfect. No, we have to do, a good job in putting it together, and then the perfect is the process, right? That's when you want to perfect the process of how you monitor it, how you document it, and do all those things. So when you're putting together your set of cost codes that you're going to use in the estimate, that's where all that proactive energy should go into. It's really just dialing deep into the cost codes to make sure that these are going to be the cost codes that I'm going to use throughout the project and probably throughout the life of my company, unless we add or change or do any new things for the company. But for the most part, these are the cost codes that I'm going to use. I'm not going to deviate from that.
Mm. No, I love that. And I think that's where a lot of guys get stuck up, is they're trying to make everything perfect when it doesn't have to be perfect, but you need to be focusing on the processes. We tend to focus so much on what does this box or what we're putting out there, what does that look like, when it's really, how does that box get delivered, that matters more than what that box looks like.
Correct. So, yeah, spend the time with your accounting professional to really set up a system that's going to allow you to track this information efficiently, and so that way also it becomes useful information for you to make decisions in the field and in the back office.
I love that. And whenever I have somebody on here that works in the financial side of things, I always like to go down this road, because so many guys are intimidated and scared by the numbers, wanting to look at it. And that's such the wrong perspective to have. It's not scary. So, I mean, how do you help guys get over that? Or what do you tell them when they're just like, I just don't want to know?
So I think all of us, we want to see, when we see our numbers, we want to see good numbers. We want to see great profit, great profit margins. We want to see great revenue. We want to see, all that money in the account that we thought should be there once we finish the job. We want to see all that information. So what happens is, when you're actually going through the job or going through, the day to day, you can feel as a contractor that something's wrong. You know, you can feel that, hey, my numbers is not right. You know what? I'm pulling down from this line of credit too much. I just took out 3 additional loans. I can barely make payroll this week. You feel things that are going wrong. But how would you feel if you knew what was going wrong?
Well, it makes it
Instead of,
real.
yeah, it makes it real. But at the same time, how much comfort would you have if you could pinpoint exactly what is going wrong? And I think that's the thing that we should be chasing. We're not chasing great numbers or great report cards, but we want to know exactly what's going wrong and what's going right in my business. And so I just want to be able to have a system in place that tells me that. it's kind of like a dashboard. It tells me, are we healthy or are we unhealthy? Because if we have that information, then we could make decisions and start to change certain things. Because no business roadmap is perfect. Like no one knows how to make every single organization become this world-renowned construction company, right? Where because everything is different for your company versus someone else's company, even in the same trade. All plumbers are not equal, all GCs are not equal, all electricians are not equal. We all have little nuances that makes us different, and so therefore our numbers are going to be different, the way we perform is going to be different, but we just need to understand how what is different about our performance, what is different about what we do, and how is it that my numbers look different from maybe the industry, and why is that? And so if we can pinpoint those things, then you can do a lot of great decision making with that information. And that's the goal, I think, for every company or every construction owner, is to really just say, you know what, I just want to have this information and for it to be right, so therefore I can make great decisions about where we need to go. And some of this stuff is a trial and error, because you may be taking on or doing different things that you wanted to do all this time, but now you're actually going to execute it. So it's going to be foreign as far as what the path has to bring,
Yeah.
So that is kind of, I hope that answers the question. I know I went pretty deep there, but yeah, I'm gonna stop and let you follow up in.
Well, I think what I'm hearing is like, it's okay to be scared. It's okay to understand that it's probably not going to be right, but the only way we can ever fix it is to know. Like, if we're just making decisions based on bad information or no information, those decisions can't be great. So, like, we just have to
Mm-hmm.
break down and understand, like, if we don't have this information, our company can never go where it needs to go. You just can't copy and paste something you've seen somewhere else into your business and hope that the ship just automatically steers itself where it needs to go, and you're using the coordinates or something from a ship that's 10 times bigger or 10 times smaller than you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Perfect. I love the copy and paste scenario
Well, I
or
think that's
analogy.
what happens though. People go to
Yeah.
Google and they're like,
Yeah.
just to your example, is like all these different businesses are out there. So there's all kinds of different blueprints. They go to Google, they get a generic outline, and then they try to just put that in their business without even having any real understanding on what's going on in the business beforehand.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. It's true. It's true. And we just got to set goals and say that, okay, because these are our goals, we're gonna put metrics and processes in place to help us achieve it, and see how well we measure up to the goals that we set.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys have a very great system. If you're going to say we're going to help you grow 15% year over year, I mean, you gotta know what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of work that goes into that, and the contractor has to be open to making some of the changes that are required for us to actually put you on that trajectory. Sometimes it's working hand in hand with how we invoice, maybe changing up some things around that, how we record information, setting up the cost codes. So in order for us to put you on that trajectory, a lot of things have to be in place, so that way we can say, okay, well, now we're set up properly. Now we can actually move towards increasing the revenue by 15% for sure.
Yeah, you got to have that foundation, and it's so I love to hear you say that, is because I think too many people, they're like, oh, well, I just buy into this, whatever, and it's just boom, it's just going to happen. And that's not how it works. Like, you have to put in this foundation. You have to be willing to change. Something
Yeah.
that we battle with in the construction industry, where you have some guys that are really, really open to it, and some guys, they're just, this is how we're going to do it. You keep referencing cost codes, so I'm guessing that is something that you run into a lot, where I'm guessing guys just don't have it set up, and if it's set up, it's probably wrong.
Yeah, so it's a lot of things that happens with cost codes, because sometimes, we have, some guys who are outsourcing their estimating. And so when you're outsourcing your estimating, they may be using a totally different set of cost codes that you're not using in-house. So either you need to have a way of being able to consolidate, what they have in certain cost codes that you want to use for your reporting. So those are some of the challenges sometimes. And then sometimes, you know, enough time is not spent in the beginning thinking about cost codes. So when you're running the job, you're like, oh, I don't have a cost code for this. And then now you're creating that on the fly. And in our system, when you create a new cost code, you want a new cost code to use, you actually have to communicate that to us as the accounting team. So that way we can set that cost code up in both the project management software and the accounting software, so that way they speak to each other. Otherwise, we'll have information in one system and won't have it in the other system. And then when we get down to the end of the project, we don't understand. We have different numbers, and we want to what happened,
Which that's a major problem, is having accounting softwares and project management softwares. And like you said, the information's inaccurate going back and forth. So, I mean, you put crap in one thing, you get crap in another thing, and then next thing you just have a pile of crap, and that's what you're making your decisions based off of.
Yeah, yeah, yep. And it can be frustrating, if those things are not talking correctly. So, like I said, that's part of the process too, as in getting your softwares to communicate with one another in the best way. And sometimes it takes, for the construction team to stop doing certain things in that software.
I know, I can imagine. So I like it, I can see it in my mind. Some of the
Yeah.
stuff that you have probably seen when you're trying, like, you go in and you're like,
Yeah.
do we just like get new software and just start from scratch, or do we actually try to fix this? Like, because I don't think people realize how quickly it can become a mess, especially when you have different admin or different people doing different things. And like you said, somebody's like, you have the sales manager, like, oh, we don't have a line item for this cost code. Boom, they just pop it in there in
Yeah.
their system. And then it
Yeah.
just throws errors through everything else. And then it probably doesn't even have alignment with how the original stuff was created, because then when you have another party do it, it gets completely made different and categorized different, and it's just a disaster.
Yeah, it's a huge. I mean, you hit it right on the head. With you got a lot of different people inside of the same software. You need to give. In other words, a lot of times there needs to be like this powwow meeting. Of,
Mm-hmm.
hey, this is your role in the software, and we don't need you to go outside of this. And sometimes you have to outline that, because they may have been used to doing this for a couple of months, years, who knows. And so to give that up or to break the habit, they need like this reference sheet of saying, like, hold on, what should I be doing in here again? What I can't do? Because you are, taking away certain responsibilities and maybe giving them new responsibilities within the software, so that way we can all play inside the same software without messing up someone else's work. And so, because rework is the killer of all momentum and progression within a new relationship. And so when you're working with, an external team, it just requires so much great, communication and clearly defined roles.
Well, yeah, no, it does. And I only know this all from experience because I went through all of this. Revamp, like everything was a disaster and we had to clean it up. And one of the first things I said was just take my admin rights away. Like I don't even let me. And then, but the powwows had to happen. Like you had to have these conversations. Like you're no longer going to be able to do this. This is how we're doing this. And then we did a lot of prep work on what we were like, what do we need? What like because we had a sales staff. And what we were going to say is what is in here is what we do. If it's not in here, we don't do it, don't bid it. So we got
Hmm.
very specific in what line items needed to be in there, what that looked like, what that verbiage was, and who could actually overwrite or admin change any of this. And I'll tell you, it was nobody on the sales side and it was nobody on the operational side that could make those decisions. Like
Hmm.
just took that leadership out of it and
Yeah.
said, if this is going to happen, it has to be a joint meeting that leads to this result that we want to create. And we're not making one-off changes. If a change is happening going forward, it's going to be permanent, whether we're taking something away or we're adding it in. We don't do one-off things.
Hmm.
And that, I mean, that took 6-8 months of really honing in on that and
Yeah.
having meetings with all the stakeholders in the company to make sure we were on target. And then when we rolled it out, it took another 6 months of training and going over it and getting the buy-in from everybody and had like so everybody understood why we were doing it as a company and it just made it better for everybody.
Look, I want to hit because you're speaking to my soul here. As you just mentioned about how long it takes for this for this relationship to kind of develop in some type of harmony, right? You mentioned I've heard, just from your mouth there, it in total about 12 to 14 months
Yeah.
before you guys were fully, shifted to this new way of operating and this new way of working together with the maybe another team. Um, some people who, are just not prepared to go through that, or they don't even they don't even have that expectation. And that is the true expectation you need to have. It's just like any other relationship that you're embarking on, whether it's, a relationship with a significant other, a relationship with a new friend. Like, it takes time for us to learn how to communicate with one another. It takes time to say, okay, what is going to be your role in this situation? What is going to be my role in this situation? And then how do we come back to the table? How do we mediate, when we have confrontation and all those things? So you're establishing like the pillars of what this relationship will be upheld by. And that is critical critical in the onboarding process. And with an accounting team, especially when you're thinking about, hey, I'm a construction company, I need to hire an external, accounting team. There's going to be a lot of communication and a lot of changes, and you have to give it time. You have to give it time for it to be perfected. So many people want to just have it change overnight, and it just doesn't happen that way. You have 3 or 4 projects that you may have going on at the same time while we're trying to, fix things inside your softwares and correct things and do rework and bring everything up to speed and give you new processes. And then you have to train the guys on how to use the softwares and all those things, all while you're still earning money, to pay the bills. So love that you mentioned that.
Well, I think if for the listeners listening out there, like there's more there's more front end work that had to happen before we even took anything live, because like you said, you want that foundation. Like everything, it takes a lot of time. And to do it right is worth it. And a kind of off topic, but since we're talking about like implementation of stuff, is like we switched CRMs at one point in time, and we did like, here's our core group that started using the new CRM, getting those systems in place. And then we ran, after we finally decided to go live, we ran Door CRM's double entry for 90 days before we
Wow.
completely went with the new system. Because if
Wow.
something happened, if whatever, like we wanted to make sure. So we just kept both going, and then we completely just went to the new system. Is that the hardest way possible to do it? Yes. But like when you're looking down the road, it's all about what are you doing right now to set you up so it's easier in the future. It's probably going to be harder now, but in 6 to 12 months, it's going to be a lot easier. And
Yeah.
your staff's going to love it a lot more when all of those changes are official. And you just have to be able to position it in a way so that everybody understands this is for the better of their careers. This is for the better of the company. This is for the better of our customers. Like this is how we move the company forward. And it's our time. Anybody that goes into any endeavor and doesn't think it's time, like when you're talking technology, I'm in the software game now. I didn't
Yeah.
even realize what that stuff looked like. If you're implementing a project management software into your business, like you better be ready for 12 to 14 months. Learning curve for everybody to be ready, like
Yeah.
to be fully optimized and up to speed. Like I didn't create these numbers. These are numbers that a lot highly educated people that have done a lot more research than I have put these timelines out. And it's the same thing when you're doing project management, accounting software. No matter what you're doing in your business, there's a time investment that has to be made, and you have to be willing to do that.
Yeah. 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 I think you said it perfectly, perfectly. You on the onset, just know time is required and a lot of time is required. But the icing on the cake is right on the other side of that. And soon as you get past whatever milestone it is that you need to get past, you're gonna be able to celebrate and eat, well from all your effort. Yeah, trust me.
Well, it starts to compound. Like
Yeah,
it just gets better and better and better, because once you have a good foundation, it just keeps compounding off of that. You don't have the problems that are stemmed up because you keep shearing something up and hoping it's going to work.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well said.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, I love what you're doing. Why don't you tell everybody out there how they can find you, connect with you, follow you?
Yeah. So we have Instagram, Facebook, and also LinkedIn. I'm more active on LinkedIn personally. So hit me up on Messenger on LinkedIn for sure. You can always book a meeting with me, and if you feel like you're ready to go down this path of getting some new technology infused into your organization and really getting this back office thing straightened out, then reach out to me at construction.accountant.
Hmm.
That's the website, construction.accountant.
That's quite the web. I mean, that is one of the best. I mean, I've had some people on here with good domains. Like
Yeah.
that might be the number one. If not, I had the founder of HOA.com on here. I think he's always number one because like, you're like, how in the world did you get that domain? But
Yeah.
construction, like that right there, that's a really good one, man. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Awesome. And thank you for taking the time to be on the show today.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Ron. I enjoyed it.
Awesome. All right, construction champions, another episode in the bag. Well, I think one of my biggest takeaways is just time. Like, we know everything takes time. I'm gonna use an analogy. I have a 6-year-old son, so I'm gonna talk about it from like raising a child. Like, a business is no different. Like, as that kid, as your child grows up, or like as my son grows up, he hits different milestones as he gets older, and there's a time investment in everything that we do to get him to where he wants to be. And it's the same with a business. I think we got to stop looking at it. They make it look so good on Instagram, so good on TikTok, where it's like, boom, 12 months, everything's all great. Like, let's see the receipts. Like, I don't know. I don't necessarily believe all of that, because it's an investment, and it's a time investment. And if you look at the companies that are killing it and continuing to grow year over year, if you want that, what Tim's talking about, that 15% year over year, you better have a damn good foundation to be able to build off of that. And that foundation is that time investment you're willing to make into that system, that new software, that new accounting process. That right there is so critical in the growth of your business, just like it's critical in the growth of a child growing up, because eventually they're going to hit 18 years old and you're going to want to see it rock and roll and go out there in the world and absolutely crush it. You want the same with your business. You want to keep hitting these milestones, and then eventually you're going to hit that milestone where that business is exactly where you want it to be. And you're just going to be able to sit back and be like, man, all that hard work, all that time I invested was worth it, because now I have a well-oiled machine that is producing exactly what I wanted to produce. And if I wanted to put some pressure on that gas pedal and crank this up, I could. It's that simple. It's not simple, but it's hard, and it's simple. It's all the same. Like, we can call it whatever we want to call it. I call it just time and work. Those are the equations that come into any business you're ever building. It's going to be, how much time are you willing to invest and how much work are you willing to put into it? And that will equal the end result. That will equal X. If we're doing an algebra equation, and I haven't done algebra since I was in like whatever grade you learned that in high school, but that's what it is. It's work and time equal X. And that X is the outcome you're trying to create with your business. So, Construction Champions, make sure you subscribe, you share the podcast, you go check out all of our fantastic sponsors. And until next time, be the champion you were meant to be.
Hey everyone! Wondering why you need BuilderComs for your next construction project? Here are 3 solid reasons. First, it keeps your team and clients seamlessly connected in real time. No more delays or communication mishaps. Second, all your critical documents are organized and just a click away. Lastly, accessibility to project photos is immediate and secure. So get BuilderComs now and experience stress-free project management like never before. Get yours now and simplify your construction projects.